Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this in the world. I hope you guys are doing okay. Now, usually whenever I start a video off like that means I'm in a good mood or some good news has dropped. Now, Tekken recently got an update that saw Clive come into the game. You all know how I feel about that. But I'm happy that everyone's having a good time, and I checked out Twitter. It looks like people are making all sorts of combos. Character's very strong, clearly designed with a lot of love and care. Not for me, but Tekken's not just for me, so as long as everyone else is having fun, I guess it's a good time. But this update was actually my favorite update, which might sound weird because I didn't want to see Clive in the game, but they've actually implemented at least half of a change that I wanted to see, and they are now punishing rage quitters, which is fantastic. When this was implemented, it said penalty, and I said, what do you mean by penalty? Because that could mean 100 points, that could mean 200 points, and on Tekken Ranked, as you guys know, you lose like 600-700 points when you lose a match, so people would still rage quit. So I was like, I don't know if they've done a good enough job here. What does penalty mean? We had to test it for ourselves. Now, you guys know I am no rage quitter, but I had to coerce somebody into doing it for me.
Oops, Mike made me do it. Oh no, a penalty.
Now, don't send Mimi any hate mail, okay? She did it for research purposes, and now I can tell you guys that it seems like you lose anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 points. At least that's what we could see based on these images. It's a substantial amount of points that are deducted from these rage quitters, and I say good. Finally, they punish these idiots for wasting our time. Now, you don't get any points for it, which is a bit of an L, but I'm not going to complain. Because ultimately, what's going to happen here is that even though you wasted my time in rage quitting, we're not going to have a bunch of fraudulent people running around. And we do have fraudulent people at the top of the leaderboards, or at least hovering around God of Destruction, or at God of Destruction level. I've come across multiple people that are playing at that level and they're rage quitting. So this is a W change. I hope and I pray that if they rage quit multiple times, that it acts in the same way it does where when you lose 3 matches in a row, you get an even bigger penalty. I think that would be great. Now again, it would have been awesome if the change was like the whole package and we get our win or we get a few points for it, even if it was like 300 points. At least it's something. But you know, this change is a step in the right direction, and we're going into season 2, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a W because there's been quite a few L's on Tekken 8. I would say the game's not dying. You know, I've heard people saying the game is dying. We don't know yet. It's too early to say. I don't think Clive is going to kill the game. I certainly don't think that. Tekken's just gone in a direction that maybe is not, you know, comfortable for me, but the game doesn't seem like it's dying. There are other games that are dying, but we're not going to get into that now. You guys know which game it is. That is where I wanted to end that segment, but I've come home from shopping and come to find out that the rage quitting situation has not only not been fixed, it's actually gotten worse. So it's true that when people rage quit, they lose 1,500 points. The only problem is the game doesn't know who's rage quitting. So now when people are rage quitting on the loading screen, it's saying that you are rage quitting. So if you come up against somebody and they rage quit on you and it's loading, you'll lose your points. Thank God I didn't go into ranked. It was too good to be true. Now obviously they're going to fix this, but my God, what a blunder. And I've heard from some people, though this is unverified, I don't know, but apparently if you rage quit in the match, even in some instances, some people are losing their points. So I would have liked to have ended that segment there, but I've come home, I've looked at my phone, I've been told by multiple people, Michael, look, they haven't fixed the problem. So if you've gotten to this part of the video, yes, I am aware of what's going on. Namco, another L. I just said there's been a lot of blunders, but this is a W. Not yet. You messed it up again. This is the Mortal Kombat situation, right? Every time Mortal Kombat updated their game, there was a blunder. This is now, what, the second or third time that Tekken has updated their game and there's been a blunder, so hopefully they fix it. It's very disappointing. I was looking forward to jumping back on ranked, but certainly not going to do it now until I know the problem has been fixed. Unfortunately, other people are going to have to be guinea pigs in this situation because I'm certainly not turning my console on to test it for myself. I'm sure they will fix it in time, but it's an L. You know, Mortal Kombat did this. We gave them shit for it. Namco deserves the same treatment as far as I'm concerned. We'll just wait and see what happens. Anyway, on to the next topic. What I do want to talk about is Virtua Fighter. Now, you guys have all seen the leak. Now, out of respect for Sega, I'm not going to put the leak on the screen. It's just not something that I usually do with leaks, although everyone has seen it now, so we might as well talk about it because there's a lot of concerns surrounding this leak. And when I saw the leak, initially, I had to double take because I was like, what am I looking at right now? You guys have probably seen it. If you haven't, I'll paint the picture. It's literally just Akira fighting on the stage that we saw at the Game Awards, but there's a health bar and beneath that health bar is a meter. And I know what you're thinking. What do you mean there's a meter? Now, I'm going to be realistic here. I don't think Virtua Fighter is going to launch without super moves. I'm just going to be realistic. I already had that expectation going into the game. Now, one thing I am kind of excited for is the fact that they said realistic over and over again. They kept on saying, we're aiming for realism, we're aiming for realism. I watched the little show they had after the Game Awards, and I kept on hearing the word reality or realism or realistic. So I'm hopeful that Virtua Fighter is going to go down that road, that we're not going to see too many crazy things. But Virtua Fighter 6 has an opportunity to do a lot of great things. Now, one of the questions I've been asked loads of times on stream or in comments is, do you think Virtua Fighter is going to rival Tekken? The quick answer and the short answer is no. Tekken is a juggernaut, it completely dominates the 3D space. Is Virtua Fighter going to make a dent if it does things correctly? Yeah, probably. It's a new game. It's going to come into a space where Tekken is uncontested. There are going to be people that are feeling a kind of way about Tekken, and they're going to move over to Virtua Fighter because they're looking for something a bit more tame, a bit more rooted in traditional martial arts, or maybe a slower paced game. Not that Virtua Fighter is slow actually. Virtua Fighter is very aggressive and very fast paced, but the mechanics are a little bit more balanced. There's more room for defense in my opinion. Not so much in Tekken 8, it's a very offensive game. But Virtua Fighter over time has the opportunity to really steal players away from Tekken. Now, the most obvious and glaring way to do this, and I'm sorry if this has been beaten to death and you guys have heard it over and over again, but the most obvious way to do this is to include the Yakuza characters. Yakuza is a game that is developed by RGG, who are also developing Virtua Fighter, who work for Sega. They're all under that banner. It is a match made in heaven. Now, we've asked for Kiryu in Tekken for years now, since beginning of Tekken 7. It's not going to happen now. I kind of don't want it to happen anymore since Virtua Fighter is here and they own the IP. I think that you should just flood that roster with Yakuza characters and make them play like Virtua Fighter characters whilst retaining their unique fighting styles. You've got people like Kiryu, Ichiban, Yagami, Majima, Saejima, Akiyama, Watase. The list goes on and on. Yakuza could have its own fighting game, but if you have Virtua Fighter there, and you have had characters historically that are a little bit bland, that people don't really gel with, yes, you should redo them. As we see with Akira, he's got a brand new look, and he looks kind of cool. He kind of reminds me of a character called Masumi Arakawa, and he's a character in the Yakuza games. He kind of dresses the same, has the same sort of vibe. When I saw that, I was like, am I looking at a new Yakuza game? And I realized immediately, as soon as we saw that like shoulder barge that Akira's known for, that was a Virtua Fighter game. But there's an opportunity there to merge the worlds. You still keep it martial arts based because Yakuza is a very grounded game. You know, there's a lot of wacky stuff in it surrounding it. There's a lot of funny side stories and there's a lot of goofy things you can do in the gameplay. But the story is more grounded. They're using actual martial arts. The only real outlier here is Majima, who uses a knife and a baseball bat, but that's not too much of a big deal. Majima has got enough star power where people will sort of like be like, that's the Yoshimitsu character of the game, he's the outlier. We don't want to add too many characters like that, he would be the only one. But you've got characters from the Yakuza universe, and you've got characters from the side games like Judgment, and there's so many amazing characters there, and those are amazing games that people know all over the world. You have a real opportunity here to create a roster that people would love. And you know that if you can't fit all of them on the main roster and you want to sell DLC to people, what better game to use to push your game to rival Tekken? Not that it's going to be a head-to-head rival, but to make people turn their heads and go, oh, look what they're doing over there, than to use the Yakuza franchise. And Yakuza is not the only franchise that Sega has that they can utilize. There's also Shenmue. Shenmue is a very obvious one. There are so many games that Sega has under its wing. I'm not even just talking about gameplay, I'm talking about music as well. Sega is known for putting out some really fantastic music. Legendary music in the video game industry. Why not create a jukebox and just give people free reign? Utilize your IPs. At the end of the day, Tekken owns this space. Tekken dominates this space, much like Street Fighter dominates the 2D space. If you really want to come in here and make a dent, you need to come in guns blazing. Now, I'm not saying throw the original Virtua Fighter roster under the road. I'm not saying throw them under the bus. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you should open your doors a bit more. Don't just go down what we've always known, because this clearly looks like a reboot. And it has that murky looking feel. And you guys debuted a new looking Yakuza game that is set in 1915. It's got I think it's called Unknown Project or something. It hasn't got a proper name yet. Even that can be integrated into it. Now, I'm not trying to tell Sega how to do their job, but I am a consumer and I've spoken to loads of people. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to hundreds of people on live stream and they all feel the same way. Maybe not everybody that comes to this video is going to be like, we want to see that. But even the Virtua Fighter diehards that I've had private conversations with have said, yeah, Yakuza, Shenmue, the Sega library in terms of using music, that is the way to go, because Sega, you know, Sega's my favorite company in the video game industry. They've produced so many cool things over the years. I really think Virtua Fighter could take advantage of it. I mean, for Christ's sake, Yakuza, when you go to the arcades, they have a Sega arcade and in there is Virtua Fighter. Just merge the two worlds, but keep the Virtua Fighter fighting system intact. Make the Yakuza characters fight within that. Don't bring in a character like Clive, for example, who's playing Final Fantasy in Tekken. It's a bit crazy. I know some people like that, but I don't think the Virtua Fighter fans, at least I am not looking for that. I'm very happy for Kiryu or Yagami or Akiyama to come over into Virtua Fighter and assimilate with the system in there. But their names have so much weight and so much staying power and so much relevancy in the gaming industry that it would be a completely missed opportunity to not use that to market your game. I mean, it's not even like you're selling Virtua Fighter out. It's not like you're calling on Breaking Bad or The Wire or Game of Thrones, characters that are completely out of place in the Virtua Fighter universe, to sell units or to sell the product. You're using characters that make sense, characters that are already from games that fight a lot. They belong in that universe. And I really don't think you'd find much objection there. So if there's anyone at Sega that by chance sees this and the game is still heavily under development and you're undecided on who's going to make it, at least put Kiryu in there to start with. Open the door, open the floodgates. Everybody else is doing guest characters, but not everybody is particularly chuffed of the guest characters that are getting into these games. Even with Street Fighter, Terry and Mai are good inclusions and they make sense to me, but people, and specifically the Street Fighter guys that I've spoken to, are not happy that 2 non-Street Fighter characters took up the roster. Now with Virtua Fighter, you've got a much smaller roster overall. There's not tons of characters like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter and Tekken. There's very few in comparison with Virtua Fighter. And I'm not going to lie to you, there are some characters in there that are quite throwaway and they're quite forgettable and they've got very bland designs. Now I'm not saying don't redesign them, of course. The Virtua Fighter diehards are going to want to see the characters they grew up with. But there is definitely room in there to bring in characters that are recognized worldwide. I mean, Yakuza was up for multiple awards at the Game Awards. Just that alone, just having those characters in there alone will bring people over. And the reason I say this is that I want Virtua Fighter to become a rival to Tekken again one day. It's not going to do that anytime soon. Probably won't do that for all of Tekken 8. It's really got to get its foot back in the door there. But there is an opportunity here. And everybody that's laughing and scoffing at this, there was a time when Virtua Fighter dominated the 3D space. And it wasn't until Tekken 3 came out where Tekken 3 took over. It took 3 games. It's going to take time for Virtua Fighter to find its feet. It's going to take time for people to say, hey, I want to try that out. You know what will help? Having Yakuza characters in there. Let me know what you guys think about all of that. I am firmly in the camp of I think these are the right guest characters to have because they're from the company, they make sense, it doesn't feel like a cash grab, and people love these characters. So you guys let me know what you think about all of this and I'll chat to you all very soon. Also, fuck all the rage quitters, you got exactly what you deserved. Which is how I wanted to end the video, but Namco cooked us again. Quick side note, apparently they've also fixed the rage quitting situation over on Sparking Zero, so that is a W. Let's hope that they haven't broken it like Tekken, so I guess we'll wait and see, but I'll catch you guys very soon.